South Korea's commander-in-chief called the North Korean regime irrational for legitimizing the preemptive use of nuclear weapons. His remarks came today amid Pyongyang's heightening of tensions ahead of the general election in the south. Korea's industrial output grew slightly last year, but in fact, manufacturing and retail sales turned out to be very weak. Samsung Electronics saw its operating profits plunge in Q4 last year, affected by greater deficits in its chip business, but signs of recovery were detected in memory chips like DRAMs. It's January 31st, 2024. This is Newscenter. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jong-min. South Korea's commander-in-chief today presided over a defense meeting amid North Korea raising tensions with verbal threats and weapon tests recently. President Yoon called the North Korean regime irrational and warned of possible provocations before the upcoming election in the south. Our defense correspondent Jin Jong-oh leads us off.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has labeled the North Korean regime as the only irrational group in the world that has legalized the preemptive use of nuclear weapons. The remarks came as Yoon on Wednesday presided over the annual integrated defense meeting at the Blue House.
상식적인 정권이라면 핵을 포기하고 주민들이 살 길을 찾겠지만 북한 정권은 오로지 세습 전체주의 정권 유지를 위해 물불을 가리지 않고 있습니다.
Yoon also believes North Korea may attempt to interfere with the April general election in South Korea, as he noted that the regime has, quote, worked tirelessly to bring down South Korea's liberal democratic system for the past 70 years.
올해도 접경지 도발, 무인기 침투, 가짜 뉴스, 사이버 공격, 후방 교란 등 선거 개입을 위한 여러 도발이 예상되고 있습니다.
The meeting took place amid heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula following a series of missile provocations by North Korea. It brought together around 170 people from the government, military, police, and the National Intelligence Service, with civilians also taking part for the very first time. President Yoon called for strengthened cooperation in defense among all parts of society as the attendees discussed ways to respond to potential North Korean threats. He called the meeting a warning to North Korea that shows South Korea's united will. 최민정, Arirang News.
Senior diplomats from Seoul and Washington met today and discussed a wide range of economic issues, including the Inflation Reduction Act that has caused concerns for South Korean companies. South Korea's second Vice Foreign Minister Kang In-sun met her American counterpart, Jose Fernandez, in Seoul and explained that Korean companies have been creating jobs in the U.S. and strengthening supply chains through investment. She also urged the U.S. government to take special interest in facilitating investment tax deductions and subsidies for these companies. The two sides also agreed to strengthen cooperation on critical raw materials such as graphite to diversify supply chains. As speculation is rife that Russian President Vladimir Putin could soon be making his trip to Pyongyang, now there are signs of North Korea building its friendship with China closer than ever, marking 75 years of their diplomatic relations. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-oh explains what this could mean for power dynamics in this region.
While the leaders of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan are keeping their eyes fixed on the worrying exchanges between North Korea and Russia, they are forgetting one country that may hold the key to all of this: China. The leaders of North Korea and China declared this year to be the year of friendship between them, as 2024 marks the 75th anniversary of their establishment of diplomatic ties.
Socialist states celebrate big every 5 and 10 years. So this year, there will be that celebration to cement the friendship between the North and China. Beijing also possibly has the need to convey its thoughts on the recent closeness of North Korea and Russia.
The relationship between Pyongyang and Beijing seems to be rather stagnant compared to the recent developments between the North and Moscow.
North Korea and Russia are countries that are being condemned by the international community. Russia is an invader, and North Korea keeps ignoring the UN Security Council resolutions by continuing to advance its nuclear and missile capabilities. There's no need for China to give the impression that it's on the same side as them.
But this doesn't mean the big brother doesn't care about North Korea. On the contrary, China has reasons to take the Pyongyang matter more seriously.
There are three principles that China adheres to in its policy on the Korean Peninsula. One is to promote peace and stability, two is denuclearization, and three is dialogue and negotiation. If Chinese President Xi Jinping does meet the North leader this year, there's a high chance he will reiterate these principles to him. This is because if peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula is compromised, it will be damaging to China's national interest as well.
China plays an indispensable role, especially in improving the regime's economy.
China could try to trade and have economic cooperation with North Korea under the UN Security Council resolutions. Although in the course of applying the sanctions, China would likely exercise more flexibility than before.
The experts say it seems inevitable that North Korea, China, and Russia will improve their respective relations this year. They added that it's up to South Korea to try to actively communicate with Beijing and Moscow that Pyongyang's continued nuclear and missile provocations are not just a threat to the two Koreas, but to the world. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
In other news, U.S. President Joe Biden says he has decided how to respond to the drone attack that killed American service members in Jordan, but did not elaborate. Speaking to reporters before leaving the White House for a campaign trip to Florida, President Biden also reiterated that the U.S. does not need a wider war in the Middle East. Last Sunday, 3 U.S. service members were killed and at least 34 wounded in a drone attack by Iran-backed militants in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border. Korea's industrial output marked a modest annual growth last year. In fact, manufacturing and retail sales turned out to be very weak. Our economics correspondent Moon Hae-ryun has details.
The country's overall industrial output inched up in 2023, but hit lows in manufacturing production on the back of a slow recovery of the semiconductor industry. Data from Statistics Korea released Wednesday showed that industrial output grew by 0.7% last year compared to the year before. This was mainly due to increased output in the service industry, which grew by nearly 3% on year. However, the manufacturing industry saw a drop of just under 4%, its biggest decline seen in 25 years. While production of cars grew by nearly 10%, chip production fell by over 5%. It's the first time since 2001 that chip production has seen an on-year decline. The semiconductor industry's production levels went downhill from the second half of 2022 through the first half of 2023 and only began to recover in the second half of last year. Retail sales, a key gauge of private spending and domestic consumption, fell by 1.4%. That's the biggest drop since 2003 and came on the back of a downturn in sales of semi-durable goods such as clothing, despite a small rise in consumption of durable goods such as cars.
The trend of spending in the service sector was reflected in the data this year. We also expect prices and interest rates to have an impact on data.
South Korea's consumer prices were up 3.6% in 2023 due to soaring energy prices and unstable weather patterns, raising prices of agricultural products such as fruit. Facility investments also saw a large drop of over 5%, the largest decline in 4 years. The machinery and transport sectors both saw a downturn compared to 2022. Construction orders for housing and buildings fell by more than 30% last year, while it increased by 20% for railway track construction. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
An annual shortfall in national tax revenue reached a record high in 2023 amid a sluggish economy. Data from the Finance Ministry shows that South Korea's national tax revenue collected last year stood at 344 trillion won, which is about $260 billion. This falls short of the government's original projection by around 14%. The economic downturn has led to an over 22% fall in corporation taxes compared to a year before. Capital gains tax also fell amid a slump in the real estate market. Samsung Electronics saw its operating profits plunge in Q4 2023 because its chip businesses suffered greater deficits. But signs of recovery were detected in memory chips like DRAMs. Park Go-no reports on what to expect this year.
Samsung Electronics business report card for the fourth quarter of 2023 showed an on-year plunge in operating profits, in line with its earnings guidance revealed earlier this month. According to the company on Wednesday, Samsung recorded operating profits of 2.82 trillion Korean won, or around $2.1 billion during Q4 last year. That was a decrease of over 34% on year due to deficits in the semiconductor sector. The chip sector's deficits were at 2.18 trillion won during the October to December period, and 14.87 trillion won annually in 2023. But Samsung's Device Solutions division, which manages its chip business, says the situation had improved from the quarter before. Recoveries in inventories of memory chips, especially DRAM, and higher demand for AI servers contributed to the lower deficits. In terms of the whole of 2023, Samsung recorded operating profits of 6.56 trillion won, down by over 84% from the previous year. This is the first time since 2008 during the global financial crisis that Samsung has logged an annual operating profit of less than 10 trillion won. However, a semiconductor expert expects a brighter future for the company.
Throughout the year, DRAM sales will be seeing more surplus, while NAND flash chips and foundry business sees smaller deficits. Samsung's chip sector will probably return in the black in the second quarter.
Samsung also said it'll be focusing on expanding sales of high-valued products, including high-bandwidth memory 3 chips in AI smartphones, along with other AI-enabled consumer products in the first quarter of this year, as IT market conditions are gradually recovering. Park Go-no, Arirang News.
Staying with Samsung, prospects over its profits for this year are indeed looking up amid the launch of its Galaxy S24 series. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young explains why.
Following an unpacked event earlier this month, Samsung Electronics Galaxy S24 series is out starting Wednesday. The lineup, including the S24, the S24 Plus, and the S24 Ultra, is now available in countries including the US, the UK, France, and India. The company plans to ultimately release the phones in 120 countries. The Galaxy S24 series saw an even bigger increase in global pre-order sales compared to the previous model. Not only that, the top-of-the-line Galaxy S24 Ultra is the most popular, accounting for 65% of the total. The latest series has broken the company's domestic pre-order record, surpassing the previous one set by last year's model. According to Samsung, pre-orders for the series in Korea came to over 1.2 million units. The surge in demand is driven by the addition of an on-device AI feature, which allows users to enjoy the cutting-edge technology of generative AI without connection to the cloud.
For me, the circle to search feature stands out the most in this series, as it allows you to search for items by drawing a circle on the screen while watching clips. I can definitely feel a big difference in speed and camera quality compared to previous models.
Another feature that captured customers' attention was real-time calls and text translations.
Customers are interested in how Live Translate works when making calls with non-Korean speakers. People seem to prefer the Galaxy S24 Ultra since it's the first ever Galaxy phone with a titanium frame. Also, users can enjoy clearer photos with it.
Amid rising expectations that Apple's iPhone 16, launching later this year, will incorporate generative AI, one expert says that the South Korean tech giant could have an advantage in the AI smartphone market.
Generative AI is expected to have a significant impact on the market. Considering Samsung's expertise in chip design and manufacturing as well, the widespread adoption of on-device AI could bring long-term benefits for the company.
The total annual shipments of the latest series are expected to reach 36 million units, the highest in 8 years since the Galaxy S7, which sold 49 million units in 2016. 신하영, Arirang News.
Here in the capital, the 2023 Seoul Light Show in Gwanghwamun Square ended on Wednesday after running for 38 days. Seoul Metropolitan Government stated that almost 1.9 million people visited Gwanghwamun for the show. Especially last Christmas Eve, around 270,000 people came to the square. In the Light Festival, numerous layers of light and media arts were screened on the outer walls of the buildings there. The city plans to rerun the light show this winter. The most viewed non-English content on Netflix last week were from South Korea. Mystery thriller series The Bequeath topped the streaming service's global top 10 in the non-English category with over 3 million views. During the same period, the movie Badland Hunters starring actor Ma Dong-seok, also known as Don Lee, sat on top of the top 10 movie chart with more than 14 million views. This action movie achieved such a record in 3 days after release and also made it into the top 10 in 82 countries. Now to the Gangwon 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games. We've been delivering stories and incredible performances of the young athletes, and tonight we're taking a different angle to spotlight those working behind the scenes. Here's our correspondent Song Yoo-jin with her exclusive interview with Olympic gold medalist Jin Jong-oh, the co-president of the Games Organizing Committee.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 2024 강원 동계 청소년올림픽 공동조직위원장 진종호입니다. 반갑습니다.
As a four-time Olympic gold medalist, Jin Jong-oh is an Olympic legend. He was the first athlete to win gold in 3 consecutive Olympic shooting events, having done so from 2008 to 2016. Nowadays, he has a different kind of target, leading the Gangwon 2024 Organizing Committee alongside former speed skater Lee Sang-hwa.
When I competed in the Olympics as an athlete, I just received the services, food and beverages that were provided. In this role, I've tried to listen to the athletes, take into account their preferences and needs.
Even before announcing his retirement last December, Jin was already involved in sports administration. He completed his master's degree in physical education and is pursuing his PhD. He also served as a director for the Korean Sports and Olympic Committee.
As an athlete, I only knew how to compete, but didn't know how the competitions were organized. Working on my degree, I learned about the importance of helping to ensure that the athletes and referees can do their jobs without any disruptions.
Throughout the games, Jin had no time to spare, checking on athletes, competition venues, and the staff. He especially expressed deep gratitude toward the volunteers. Jin himself worked as a volunteer during the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics.
Our volunteers are truly the best. In this cold weather, outdoors or indoors, what they're doing, such as traffic control and guidance, is just admirable.
Despite his busy schedule, he's taken the time to cheer on the young athletes.
Before the games, I saw them as teenagers, but once the games started, their attitude and concentration have been just incredible, almost to the point where it was hard to tell them apart from adults.
After Gangwon 2024, Jin hopes his home province of Gangwon-do can leverage its 2-time Olympic hosting experience.
I'm hoping we can make better use of the venues from Pyeongchang 2018 and Gangwon 2024. Maybe host more local and international competitions. It would be great if the younger generation and those in the sports scene contribute to carrying on this legacy.
As for his personal goals, he aims to contribute to the improvement of Korea's sports industry. That's because he's still deeply in love with sports.
My journey has come to an end as an athlete, but now I'm walking a new path as a coach and sports administrator. I've lived the life of an athlete, so I want to be someone who continues to love and support athletes until the very end.
With Gangwon 2024 nearing its end, this is his message for everyone involved.
Thanks to you, Gangwon 2024 has shown how South Korea truly loves and is dedicated to sports. To the athletes, this is the beginning of your journey, a stage for you to dream. I hope you enjoy the games to the fullest and share your love for sports with the world.
여러분들이 주인공입니다. 여러분들이.
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스, 강릉.
The temperatures stay warm, but it's stuffy to breathe. As the atmosphere stagnates, the fine dust has hardly been resolved. As dust continues to accumulate during the day, the concentration of ultrafine dust in Seoul and other metropolitan areas is expected to become very bad tonight. Since ultrafine dust is expected to remain in the west until tomorrow, you should pay special attention to respiratory health. Tomorrow there is a forecast of snow and rain on the east and south coast. Until Friday, Yeongdong in Gangwon-do province will receive up to 15 centimeters of snow and up to 10 on the east coast of Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Light rain will continue on the southern coast and will move away in the morning. And Jeju Island is expected to receive as much as 30 millimeters of rain until tomorrow night. Tomorrow, Seoul will start off at -3 degrees Celsius. Relatively mild conditions are expected for the daytime. Seoul will get up to 7 degrees, Busan and Jeju 10 degrees Celsius. As for Gangwon-do province, with most areas having cloudy conditions, Gangneung will receive snow in the afternoon. For the time being, the temperatures will be above normal levels, but rain is expected to come around often. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.